If you are a if you are a PlayStation Portable fan and you like classic games, I have some news for you. Today's gaming news is all about emulation on the iPhone. And with the Delta emulator already in place, Apple changing the rules, it was only a matter of time before other emulators joined the Apple family. And today, we have news of a few emulators coming to iPhone, or in this case, the PPSSPP emulator for PAS1 is now available on iPhone. Let's have a read at these two articles. First article is from RetroDodo, talking about PPSSPP, which is responsible for PlayStation portable games. Sometimes I'll refer to this to make it shorter, P squared S squared P squared, so that I don't have to do the same letters twice. Today's article is written by Seb Santa Barbara. Let's have a read. I honestly didn't think I've spent that much time on the Apple App Store in years, but with every day comes a new emulator for me to download and play epic retro games on my iPhone. And I'm certainly not complaining. So for this week, we have Gamma dropped into our lives. That's another emulator, bringing PS1 titles to our palms. And now, one of our favorite emulators, P squared S squared P squared, has finally been improved for the Apple App Store and is available now, responsible for PS1 PSP games. I wrote back in April that P squared S squared P squared creator Henrik Reitgard was planning to bring the emulator to the App Store, and at the time of writing, that was only a month ago. Things seem to have moved pretty quickly since then, and in almost a 12-year wait for Apple users to get the P squared S squared P squared emulator on the phones. And as shown here on the screenshot, you can see the menu for P squared S squared P squared here on the phone, and it's showing you how to do the demos, homebrew, games, recent, load settings, everything you would normally see for an emulator shown here. This means that gamers can now play epic PSP titles on the go on their iPhones like God of War, Burnout Legends, and Tekken 6. Keep in mind that there are some limitations. For example, Vulkan support through Molten BK will not be enabled on launch. Magic Keyboard and JRT compiler not being supported. Retro achievements are not available yet, but the creator is going to go add them. And JIT compiler dysfunction will not be allowed according to Apple. But that might change. You never know. This P squared S squared P squared is now available on your iPhone now. So if you guys want to play some PSP games, get PPSSPP or P squared S squared P squared. You just have to do the letters twice. But wait, there's more. There is more news on the way right now, because that's the first one that's coming up. The second one is a major one, and that is RetroArch. And we're gonna see this article from iMore on Microsoft Start. And let's read this article about RetroArch. I'm only gonna read the RetroArch section because they also add the P squared S squared P squared um thing here. So RetroArch, for those of you who are not aware, it's the one with the multiple classic systems like the Super Mario 64, the 64, the Game Boy Advance, and all that good stuff. And actually, if you play a Super Mario 64 ROM hack, like I've been doing, they will ask you to install RetroArch as well. So this is that particular emulation on iPhone. RetroArch, a multi-system emulator, and P squared S squared P squared, a Sony portable PlayStation emulator, are now available to download for free on iPhone, iPad, and Apple TV. And it's available today. Liberal, creators of RetroArch, announced the news on May 15 and confirmed that future update incoming that will support Mac OS. Ooh, that's a big one. You can now download the multi-system emulator on the Apple App Store. Around the same time, Henrik Weigard, PSP squared S squared B squared, announced in a blog post that his emulator was also available to download on App Store today. That's a There's a paid version or a gold version of P Square S Square P Square available too, which doesn't offer exclusive features, but in a way it is instead a way to support the efforts of the emulator. So you're not going to get anything else other than support the emulator if you do the gold version. While P squared S squared P squared only emulates PlayStation Portable, RetroArch can emulate over 30 systems. Consoles such as Sega Saturn, Neo Geo, CD, Prod PC Engine, Commodore, Amiga, and MSX can be emulated through a RetroArch. And it also offers plenty of features. NetPlay support, which means you can play an emulated game over cellular or Wi-Fi connection, meaning multiplayer. Additionally, RetroArch supports cheats for many games, shaders and how certain graphics look, and lots more. Now, keep in mind, RetroArch is a little bit different from PPSSPP as well as Delta, as we have a steep learning curve according to this article from iMore. Let's take a look at what they say. I've been a user of both PPSSPP or P squared squared P squared and RetroArch for over several years because I've owned several devices that could run them way before Apple's rule change. And in April, that allows retro gamers emulators on its devices. On the one hand, PPS P squared S squared P squared has always been great to use thanks to the simple interface and great features such as saving anywhere and being able to upscale games to 4K. RetroArch, on the other hand, is a powerful emulator with lots of great features, but its user interface is not good. It's a high bar for entry for new users and those who with accessibility needs as an app doesn't offer great guidance on how to run or play a game for first-time users. That's not to say that I'm unhappy overall. I'm very glad I can now use RetroArch as well as P squared S squared P squared on my iPad and Apple TV by simply going to the App Store and downloading them. However, I should mention that why RetroArch's user interface will likely confuse you when the first time you see it. So as you can see here, here is the interface of RetroArch shown here on your screen, and yeah, looks pretty intimidating. Intimidating. Okay, it does. Let's see what else we got here. You're essentially plunked in onto the main screen, and you're left to fend for yourself and figure out how to run a game. You can use Apple's Files app when using the emulator on iPhone and iPad to transfer files over. When it comes to Apple TV, you need to use a File Transfer Protocol or FTP client to transfer files from to RetroArch. So, for example, that is how you make websites too. By the way, you need to have FTP, File Transfer Protocol. Um, this means you need to have a separate device nearby that is also an FTP app installed, like FileZilla. This is the one I use. After installing RetroArch on my Apple TV, I posted my frustrations on over on Threads. Threads is, by the way, that one social media platform that looks like Instagram or Twitter. Anyway, and many agree that they have similar experiences in finding with with the settings. I hope liberal makers of RetroArch are aware of these potential challenges for new users and that they are planning to making the onboarding process easier. So a lot of people are excited about RetroArch and PPSSPP being on the iPhone now. And it makes sense as we gamers now have phone. We gamers now have iPhone and Android devices in 2024. And this makes sense because now we do not need to rely just on a PC anymore or a laptop to play emulated games. We can now use our phones to play PSP games. We can now use it to play Nintendo DS games. And it actually makes sense as we see with content creators like myself, for example, use something like ATM, which is a plugin for vertical play. For example, allow me to demonstrate a little bit. So demonstration of ATM is going to go with the full screen. So do understand that you're going to see the display of ATM. So how ATM works is it's a plugin on ATM. You go docs. I have it on OBS Studio vertical, and your iPhone is already vertical format, which means this puppy right here, this iPhone right here, can be translated to a vertical screen, and you can easily record iPhone game like a Delta emulator, the PSP emulator, the RetroArch on the right side. It's on the right side of vertical. This is good for content creators because you can connect this guy right here, your lightning cable to your phone on the computer, and then you can put that on the screen like a capture window with displaying devices. And some apps like Let's View allows you to display your phone screen on the TV monitor. So you can take advantage of that as well. So for content creators, that's a very good selling point, or in this case, downloading point because it's free for the emulation. So this gives content creators like myself and you guys the ability to make good on the content that you can make with iPhone emulators. Pretty cool. And it's easier because of Nintendo DS. Nintendo DS is very, very vertical, as we have seen. So if you play a Nintendo DS game with the Delta emulator, for example, and you can screen grab, window capture that on OBS Studio, put it on a vertical ATM, the ATM plugin for OBS Studio. You can really make content with Mario Nintendo DS games on the iPhone to the thing, and it's good for those who use TikTok, Instagram, all those vertical platforms that we know and love today. So, in summary, in summary, PPSSPP is now available along with RetroArch. Very good to emulators. Keep in mind if you're into RetroArch, it's a little bit of a learning curve. So do keep that in mind. That is the news for today. We will be back later with more news as we prepare for ourselves for X Defiant. We're gonna be taking a look at the trailer, and then tomorrow we'll be taking a look at the Battle Pass. I believe the Battle Pass trailer is gonna be tomorrow or on Monday. So lots of X Defiant content on the board as we prepare for next Tuesday. It is the highly anticipated game, everybody. So we'll be back for that later today with another video. We're gonna react to that today. Enjoy, and we'll see you guys on our next gaming news.